Welcome to another episode of Things You Thought the Bible Says, but it doesn't. Oh, alright. This week's topic is one that makes me mad. I'm going to try my best not to get too riled up. I know that this trend exists in charismatic Pentecostal churches, because I've grown up in them. I know it exists in the Word of Faith movement. It exists in the Independent Fundamentalist Baptist movement, and I'm sure it exists other places, but I can't speak to that. There is this idea that the preacher, that the man of God, has been granted special dispensation by God, and therefore you can never disagree or say anything critical of him. Touch not mine anointed, and do prophets no harm, is a popular way of bringing about this point. Another is, take care of the man of God, and God will take care of you. Now listen to me. If you falsely attack or falsely accuse anyone, preacher or not, God does not tend to look very kindly upon this. But preachers do not have this extra special protection from God to where you can't say anything bad about them or ever disagree with them on anything. We're people just like you. We're to be held accountable. We're to be corrected just like you when we're wrong. Now, if you show me a preacher that says and expects this, I'll show you a man who is abusive, harsh, cruel to the sheep, prideful, unteachable, and is probably hiding something in their personal life. They're often enriching themselves at the expense of the sheep as well. Only cult leaders can't be questioned. Now, I know from personal experience what it is like to be under the cult-like control of a man of God. He controlled every aspect of my life. I did everything for the man because in so doing I thought I was doing it for God. He did not even have to change a light bulb or spray the weeds in his own yard. I was conditioned to believe that if you take care of the man of God, if you be his armor bearer, that's another popular phrase, God will take care of you. Of course, he wasn't really living much like a man of God, I came to learn. The Bible verses people use to teach this are flimsy and are very often taken completely out of context. In a previous episode, I talked about the story of in the Old Testament where Elisha is made fun of by some teenagers. We explained how God didn't really have the bears eat 42 kids because they laughed at Elisha's bald head. Go and watch that episode for a more in-depth explanation there. But yet, this out-of-context story is one of the favorites that are used by these types of men to ward off any critique or accountability by the spiritually untouchable. I was even told one time that my debilitating back problems that I have are because I turned in a pastor for committing adultery. I was even told that one time. That was pretty interesting. Touch not the Lord's anointed is not about preachers or personal criticism. It's amazing how it will come to mean you can't ever question their opinions or conclusions. Now, does God defend pastors and preachers against lies and false attacks? Absolutely, because he does so for every Christian. Are preachers in this super protected state so high above the lowly laity? Absolutely not. In fact, being a pastor is a role of service and responsibility. We are not dictatorial overlords. So if you hear a preacher or a church talking like this, you probably need to run in the other direction. We'll see you next time. God bless.